Hey, it's Dell here. This is a VR in part to the GM recap and reflections of Man versus Beast. And this is from a player's perspective, mine in particular, as Todd and I were the players. David unfortunately couldn't get there, and that did somewhat factor in on my character's decision, being that we were short as far as people being able to contend with any danger. Any danger that revealed itself to the extent it did in the game, right? Okay. Now, the setup that Jason wrote was inspiring to me. I even asked him at the start, could you read that? And he said, I'm not reading that. Yeah, I'd already posted it, but it kind of got me juiced up to play. I was like, yeah, this is perfect. Because I mentioned it before, I kind of wanted to develop a one-shot game system to where it was kind of like Beowulf having to go attend to Grendel, the difficulty, but more purposefully focused in that direction, which I think you can do within a one-shot, right? So Jason's created that. Now, we did the setup. In the setup, we're landing on the island, but retconned it a little bit to where we was on the shore, on the boat right before we saw the island, which was fine. And it gave us a chance to describe the characters. We got off the boat, and then reconnoitering the scene of what was there, which I will put a pin in for a second. Say, Jason, the work he does in the setting, and like if you watch his GM recap, he's talking about the what the pillars stood for, this and that. So there's a reason for the culture and the way it's interacting, which I really appreciate, and I kind of know and feel that infusion into the setting when I step off that boat as the character, that I know that there is a plausibility to the world, that I'm walking into, and that things will pan out and bear out that way, right? So I don't feel like it's totally random or without meaning or some structure. So you feel that as a character when you're stepping off, and you intently, or at least I did, look at things trying to gather information. Okay, so the setting in Jason's presentation of it, as we're getting off, I go, okay, what are we dealing with? Because it's important that I take things in and factor what is going on, right? So when we get off the boat, and to be honest, the thing that I know this is a one shot and we're pressed for time, there was moments when I would glance down at the clock, and so that did factor in a way for me to feel a completion. Now, that's just an admittance. I think it happened 2 or 3 times, like twice, I believe, right? Like at the 20 after, we had about 40 minutes left, and then we had about 20 minutes left. I glanced at it, because to keep on task, and why I was mindful of that, in all honesty, like the setup was the players that I had to contend with was what was occurring across the beach. That was described. When we landed, the woman started setting up camp. I left my torchbearer there with her to do the same. Todd's character was wanting to go find something to eat. A little bit due to the time-sensitive nature, like we had a mission to do, I felt like it needed to move forward, right? And my character was tasked with finding our ancients. And this will explain later on of the tack that I took as my character, and why I was driven to do certain things more so than others, which was getting them off the island as opposed to fighting the beast, right? Okay. So I go check the ruin, and there was habitation over there. It was described. So I wanted to see if there was habitation. We saw the pots and the fish nets. So I knew that these people fish. There was people potentially around there. So I wanted to do that. That was the main thing. The food, the setting up of the lean-tos or whatever I had conceived of, like with the impending storm, was important, but also there was potentially a habitat down the road or someplace that we could get into, or a cave or whatnot. The cave that Todd was already going to check out, and I had sent my man to go check out too, the torchbearer, to help the woman go check over there and see that. Todd's character wants to go wanted to go check that out too, which is great. Go check it out. I wanted to go check out what this habitat or the structure or ruin was a little bit down the beach. See if anybody was held up there, or if it was, to my mind, someplace that we could potentially hold up in for shelter. See more. And like I said before, I wanted to see if jewelry or any kind of iconography on the pottery would let us know if it was our people, if there was some kind of a trace of semblance that would give me hope this was indeed the island that we were looking for. So when I got there, it comes, I think the second pillar was when my character became aware that it was a sacrificial place. I had visions in my mind as far as a player of like King Kong and, Fay Ray being tied up, that kind of thing. So the beast aspect, or what, and it was laid out on the pillars. That was, and all the bleached bones laying around, been quite some time, but it was a bad omen to me, right? So I back up, head back, send my soldier Ren over there to inform Todd's crew that they should come out. And this is when the natives ran out of the brush with the leopard after them. Who tackled one. I wanted to restrain the other. He was a small guy, 5'2" or whatever. To evaluate him and to see what he spoke, see what I could get from him, that's what occurred. Wrestled with me a little bit. He was panicked. We did find a common dialect once it got past all the hyperactive rabbiting of information that he was, excitedly spewing out, and calmed him down, and in reckon order that he was talking about the danger was this way as opposed to his home being that way. Okay, your home. Yeah, let's go find the people. Okay, so my character's coming to the chief, finding out that they're contending with cannibals on the island as well as this beast. And the fact is, I know, like I had said to Todd on the way there, Todd's character, that they were sacrificing, taking, ironically, to paradise, they were sacrificing their own people, as far as in my mind, to the god at the sacrificial place, thinking that would take them to paradise. So that's what my character was utilizing whenever he was parlaying with the chief. Now, whenever we go to a time-sensitive one session thing, and we bring in multiple layers of, like, just the island was rich in the fact that it had a community of potentially our ancestors that were there, but they were harassed by another tribe that was cannibalistic. And then they were also under bondage of, relinquishing sacrifices, at least in the times past, to this beast, right? So to me, these people have been under bondage through this island, or what they've been, afflicted too. So almost like while we left the island, I'm seeing that what they're still under bondage with. And it was ultimately, like our chief said, there's great treasure there. But ultimately, what was most important was bringing back our people, because when we brought back our people, it would bring back the God and therefore paradise to our land. So that was optimally the first degree of importance. Secondarily to my character was the acquisition of any kind of treasures, or said to be great treasures there, because in that context I could have taken it that the treasure was bringing the people back and then having the God return to our land and therefore paradise. So that itself outweighed anything. Whenever my character was weighing what they were facing, what the island was offering against them, I took it into my character was an evac situation. Not to stay there because I felt we're ill-equipped to contend with all that they were facing on the island. They were already starving to death and emaciated and whatnot, and having hard times. It wasn't like there were stout people that we could gather up to defend, and a lot of the men were gone. It was women. So it became more so a rescue mission to my character. So, and this is just following logical, lines of reasoning that my character would have gone into. So it wasn't like we had walked into, like from our village, a strong village that could send men to contend with the beast out, but we had now inherited a tribe of people that needed our protection. So that became more so the thing. And the best way to protect them was to assure that they leave the island and secondarily get back to where their ancestors had gone to and been more profitable, and therefore bring the God back to the people. There was a reason that we left in the first place. So that's what my character was looking at. So facing starving animals such as the panther, cannibals, and a beast that they had now were sacrificing to, or under the fear that it was taking, it was ravaging the people because they had killed a previous beast. A lot to contend with, and like I said, when I looked down and there was time, and that's more of a macro thing where I'm having to deal with that. But I felt like to be effective, I could not go tackle a beast, get back in time, and do that. Now, when you're, if man versus beast, to me, I think to stay on sync, if you are going to do that, the less, even though the setup and the people and the components of the island, the interaction, the symbolism of the pillars, like Jackson was explaining, is all brilliant. It's all what evoked me to be invested and involved in what was going on. It's all what made it feel like we were dealing with a real situation that we had to contend with, but you have to contend with it sanely and not irrationally, like a hobo with a shotgun. No matter at what point that you want to go and test out mechanics of whatever, it was successful in the fact that it kept me being mindful of my surroundings and weighing and factoring in doing what I was tasked to do by our chief to perpetuate our village's success and our ancestors that we will have, not our ancestors, but our future generation's success, that we needed to take our ancestors off of this island and set them up with us, bring the God back to us. That was primary focus. And I felt like weighing the factors of us jeopardizing that to go out and face what was the terrors that our own people had faced on this island and had been under bondage to. And then we could potentially sabotage that ultimate goal by putting ourselves in a needless needless risk. It wasn't, it would have felt like I wasn't genuinely inhabiting the character's perspective or mindset as the character. So in that effect is what I'm saying. It is successful that made me think from the character's perspective and follow through on those motivations. I would have felt differently if I was just trying to, less genuine if I was just trying to do something. Like I've did that before, like playing with the guys, I think Ashen and with Ivan and Jose and Elo and Jim. There was a time when we go by this cave, and I felt like, well, Ivan spent all this time making this cave because I know how prep can be. So I pushed to go in there and delve in there. Very dangerous. The rest of the guys was like, no, this is not sensible. We wouldn't diverge off of this area. But I felt like obliged to the GM to do that because I know that he put some time in the construction of that. That was my own for a player. So I was motivated as a player to follow through and prompt my character to do something that would be unwise from the character standpoint. So that was a lesson that I learned, not to just kind of be beholden to that inclination to do that to appease, or keep something from being wasted, right? But that wasn't genuinely what my character would have did, right? That was what Dale was doing to depending on that. So this was exactly in opposition to that. I did not play that way. I was there in the moment. I saw what was going on, and I did that. Now, as far as being like if we could cast it like an hour and a half game or an hour's game, as we know, like Jason said, the players in a game don't survive the players. And when there's a lot of components, or not, I say a lot, but like the situation that was going in, and you got to parlay with people. And it wasn't like they were just a bunch of docile people on there that was so catatonic that they couldn't defend themselves, or they couldn't move. And then I was forced into a situation where I had to take on this beast that was attacking to defend them, and then try to get them on the ship. They had a chief. They were relaying, and their concepts and ideas ran counter to, but similar in a way that my character felt enough that we were on a similar track of, of thought, a line of thought, as far as like understanding the world, that it just needed to be brought together and agreed upon. So my character felt like we were, this could be, throw it to the shamans and all this stuff, but it felt close enough that these were the people, their concepts, even though the wording was different of the gods and all this stuff, and he didn't really know enough of that, but he felt like he had the sin. He knew that these were his people. He knew what he had to do, and let the paperwork be worked out afterwards when he brought them back or whatever. But he needed to bring them back to secure our future generations, and that was the mindset. So I felt like it would have jeopardized otherwise. I'm going over long about it, but that's what successfully, why it was successful to me. It didn't have to go into combat. I felt like we could be attacked on that beach at any moment, and the thing was to try to get it and save as many people as possible to get them away from this disaster. Felt lucky that they were on the beach behind us on the ocean and leave, but to go forward into that hell where people were already going into and getting flayed and taken, as they would go deeper into the island, it wasn't feasible. So, but I think to keep on track as far as my eye going over to the clock, not necessarily just in media res starts, which that was essentially, we pretty much started not leaving our place, but setting foot on the island. But when you're tasked, and then if you got multiple I think when you can parlay, that does give other avenues of approach to trying to, which is good in my respect, to try to get some resolution to your problem done. Um, done a different way than just through combat, which I appreciate. But if the game, if it was presented in a way where there wasn't those opportunities and it was us in the thick trying to get to a location of a cave or a monster's lair or whatever, and we knew the village was behind us, not interposed in between, with that, it just opened up a thing for a rescue mission type situation, like I just described in my mindset. That's why the approach was different. So, but I felt like, we had to do it. But I mean, again, looking at the clock, I had to do it within a certain amount of time. And that fed into the fact that if we didn't do it, I felt the heat of the creature, the beast that would come out. So I knew that it, almost in a way, that ticking clock represented the potential for the beast showing his head and rending everyone, to bits, and the people. So that to me, well, I think I followed the best course of action, and that was satisfactory on that level. The game, I want to run it myself because to me, to do that, and if we just want a kind of a combat-esque, like I said, Beowulf and Grendel targeted thing, it can be set up more directly as that, already almost to the layer, and that's what we're doing or whatnot. But there was no shame or in how the game turned out. It was satisfactory. We got to parlay. We got to roll for influence, see what we could do. At any time, I felt like we was in a situation where the beast or the dangers that was there could surface, rear his head, attack the people, attack us. So I felt like it was a rescue mission ultimately. But no, great game. I want to run it myself and pick it up. And Jason, don't stop DMing, bro. All right. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.